My name is Fiona. From birth, childhood, youth, to adulthood, I've lived in this family woodland, and now I'm its caretaker, overseeing a team of security personnel like myself. I know that online, on forums like Reddit and YouTube, our family's woodland has become an urban legend, almost demonized as an unclean place. As for what exactly is here, I think I've already told you in the last episode. In fact, this terrifying nightmare began in my childhood. When I was little, every year in mid-December, the woods around our house would become restless. If you liked running around in the woods, you'd often see strange people, like malnourished, skinny children squatting near our kitchen waste disposal, scooping up food scraps with spoons, or boys who'd bang on our door in the middle of the night, disturbing our sleep. My brother and I thought they were funny as kids, and we never wondered why so many inexplicable people appeared in the woods every winter. Instead, we found amusement in them. For example, we nicknamed one strange person Sheep, because he'd frequently talk to the sheep in our pen late at night. My older brothers and I would lie in wait, and when he appeared, we'd jump out, whoosh, scaring sheep away. Sometimes, we'd use socks, rope, and things like that to rig the yard gate as a trap. When someone came to bang on the door and turned around, bang, the door would slam into their face. My brothers and I would hide by the window and giggle. So, these strange children never scared us. Instead, we scared them constantly, although they'd run away yelling threats to tell our mother. It was clearly childish bravado. We never actually saw them dragging their parents to cause trouble. At least, that's what I thought before I actually met their mothers. Before I explain what happened that Christmas, let me introduce my childhood. I'm the eldest sister with 6 siblings, 3 brothers and 3 sisters, 7 children in our family. It wasn't unusual for older generations to have large families. Although I'm the oldest, I always preferred playing with boys, a tomboy, as some might say. My brothers Jeremy, Casimir, and the youngest, Mary, especially looked up to me. Well, to say the youngest looked up to me is a bit of a stretch. He just thought I was as mischievous as he was, and we got along well. We did everything, from blowing up sheep dung to stuffing dead mice into shoes to throwing trash into the living room. Sometimes, I even suspected he was picked up from those strange kids in the woods and raised by my parents. It happened on Christmas Eve, when I was 16, around midnight. Usually, Mom and Dad wouldn't let us watch TV so late, but it was the holidays, so they were a bit more lenient. Snow fell incessantly outside. The 7 of us were each covered with a blanket, lying on a bearskin rug, watching a children's movie on TV. Mom and Dad were curled up on the sofa behind us. The scene and atmosphere were truly heartwarming. Then, the doorbell rang. Since my parents were there, wanting to show how responsible I was as the eldest sister, I immediately threw off the blanket and went to open the door. My mom tried to stop me, but it was too late. I had already skipped happily to the front door and unlocked it, but the door had only opened halfway when I was stunned. A head peered out from the crack, a gray-haired old woman with a pockmarked face. It was peering, because her back was so severely hunched that her head was practically hanging down to her chest. I was 16, but even hunched over, she was at least 3 or 4 feet taller than me. Think how tall she actually was. The words I wanted to say were stuck in my throat at the sight of her face. She spoke first, asking me, "Did you bully my little son? You look quite delicious." After she said these 2 sentences, I almost fainted from her tone. Suddenly, my mother pulled me back, as if she knew who it was, shielding me. The tall old woman seemed to know my mother, smiling and asking, "Hey, madam, I'm really hungry tonight. All of us are. Please, can you spare some food?" As she spoke, She acted as if my mother would agree, extending her withered hand, trying to reach inside. Get out. Get the hell out. Get as far away as possible. That was the first time I heard my mother speak so vulgarly. But at that moment, I felt incredibly comforted and secure. The old woman moved closer, her voice whimpering like a puppy, begging my mother, "Dear madam, please, we're really hungry. Just a little bit of food." My mother continued to scold her, but before she finished, my father rushed over, pointing at the old woman, saying, "If you don't get the hell out of here, I'll either kill you, or I'll tell Lacey that you broke the agreement and came here." The old woman seemed to be frightened by one of those sentences, withdrawing her hand and head. My mother, naturally, slammed the door shut with a bang, though I was still a little shaken. I asked my mother who that was. My mother said her name was Grille, to ignore her and go back to the movie. As she spoke, she touched the sleeves of her dress, showing that she was also afraid. After the movie that night, I slept restlessly, even dreaming of Grille hiding in my closet. When I dreamed she was crawling out, I woke up and decided to drink some milk to calm down. Passing the master bedroom, I overheard my parents, still awake, apparently arguing about something. I heard my father repeatedly asking, "Why didn't we give her anything? Why didn't we just give her a little something? Why didn't we just get something from the kitchen for her?" I guessed he was talking about Grille. I sat by the door and heard my mother retort, "You don't know. She doesn't want food. If we give in, she'll take advantage of it and keep coming back. Don't you remember what happened last winter?" My father softened his tone slightly, saying, "Okay, I just hope our children weren't around when she came. Do you think our kids saw her?" My mother's tone also calmed down, saying, "Probably not. At least I think not. But I've been scared of her since I was little. My parents even used her stories to scare me. Grille was more than just a childhood shadow for me. I guess I'll never forget her. I don't want Grille to become a childhood shadow for our children." Hearing this, I got goosebumps and didn't want to go to the kitchen anymore. I walked along the hallway towards my bedroom. The house was very quiet at this hour. Even the faintest sound could be heard. I heard a glug sound from the bedroom at the end of the hallway. It definitely couldn't have been snoring, because the room at the end was Mary's, and he was barely 10. He didn't snore at all. Before I could get nervous, I heard it again. The sound was like something stuck in someone's throat. I instinctively thought my brother might be having a nightmare. So I went to the end room, knocked on the door, and softly asked, "Mary, are you awake?" No answer. I slowly pushed open the door, but there was still no answer, and Mary wasn't in bed. But from time to time I could hear a glug sound from somewhere in the house. I wondered as I walked to the bed, and just as I was about to lift the covers, I heard the sound from above me. I immediately looked up and saw a hunched, gray-haired, thin and withered old woman, Grille. She was like a spider, hanging from the sloping ceiling in a way that was impossible for a normal person. I was startled, and she was startled too. She immediately hugged the thing in her hands, jumped to the edge of the bed, and said, "What's wrong? Oh dear, I'm sorry. I'll just eat a little. I'll just eat a little." As she said this, I realized her mouth was full of sticky, sauce-like substance. I didn't know what she had stolen from our house. For a moment, I didn't know what to do, and she seemed afraid that I would be angry, immediately throwing the thing she was holding back to me, saying, Sorry, don't tell the madam. The rest I'll give back to you." In the unlit bedroom, I struggled to see what she had thrown back to me. It was my brother Mary's head. Yes, just a head. His mouth still in a screaming shape, his eyes wide open as if staring at me. I threw the thing away and ran as fast as I could to my parents' master bedroom. Grille also seemed scared, suddenly smashing the window of my brother's room. Cold wind rushing in, and she screamed as she scrambled out. When a person is extremely frightened, heavy breathing can lead to a disturbance of consciousness. That's what happened to me. My memory of what happened later that night is blurry. I vaguely remember my mother raging, me sobbing in my father's arms, my other siblings and my mother crying together, until we gradually recovered the next day. Only then did I realize that what happened last night was real. We had lost a child. That New Year, we wept inconsolably. We locked Mary's room and buried his remaining head in the flower bed in the backyard. At the time, I couldn't understand why Lacey, who had such a strong sense of territory, would year after year allow Grille and her strange children to run wild in these woods. Only after I grew up and became the inheritor of this woodland did I vaguely understand that Lacey did it on purpose. He didn't care if Grille starved to death, nor did he care about our lives. We were just their amusement. Now, my parents are gone. My brothers and sisters have left the woods to work all over the country, and I'm the only one left. It's good this way. They're too naive to live here. But yesterday, Tasimir came back, saying he wanted to spend the night. I already have a bad feeling about this. Okay, folks, that's it for part 2 of this long horror story. As for what new mischief Fiona's brother gets into, we'll see next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to hear stories, you've come to the right place. I'm Shadowy Stories. See you next week. Bye-bye.